Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Sunday service. I'm flying solo tonight because Drew's working and Spencer is out. But to be honest, between the three of us, I think, given the situation that's going on in the world at the moment, I think none of us have got any great enthusiasm to try and be upbeat and talk about modeling. But what else can we do at the moment? So obviously, it goes without saying that we are all appalled and upset by what is going on in Ukraine at the moment. And it's one of the situations where we don't want to get into the politics of it, but obviously, so many of the great model companies at the moment are all based in Ukraine. And to many of us, they are friends, not only in the sense of a brand, but some of the people working there are our friends and they're caught up in this horrible situation. So, as you saw at the beginning of the show, if we can ask that you support one of the number of the humanitarian aid efforts that are going on at the moment, then obviously we would appreciate that, and we'll run that at the end of the show. But what can we do? Well, we can try and talk modeling at the moment. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to run you through a little bit of news. One of the projects here, we might actually start something new as well. So let's try and kind of focus in one way or another, even in these difficult times. So let us have a look at, well, it's hard to get away from the situation in Ukraine because two of the kits that have crossed my workbench recently, one which I finished and one which I was about to start. Well, one was obviously the ICM Lafley V15, and the next one was going to be the Mini-Art Tempo E400, both companies based in Ukraine. So, and long story short, I managed to get around to finishing the Lafley. Well, I finished it as far as I want to at the moment. I will probably go in and do some tweaks at some other stage and probably add some stowage and maybe a figure as well. I'm having a look around for a figure. But what can I say? It's an utterly brilliant kit of a really unusual vehicle. And it was, I wish I could say it was tremendous fun from start to finish. It was tremendous fun at the start. It was heartbreaking to finish this off eventually because you're not knowing what the people behind this kit are going through at the moment. So, but yes, an utterly fabulous kit. Tremendous, absolutely tremendous, and gave me a chance to play around with some weathering ideas, some of which worked, some of which didn't. The one thing I did want to try and do with this model was that kind of dusty patina that I've noticed when I've been around military vehicles, where you get the dust gets trapped in nooks and crevices, but the exposed areas tend to be slightly kind of scuffed and darker. Did I quite capture it? I don't know. I'm always massively critical of my own work. But yeah, I will be adding stowage in the back there, probably some stuff from one of the Mini-Art sets. I also chopped the bonnet open so that you could see the engine detail, but I'll go in there and probably add some wiring and some stuff as well. But as it stands at the moment, that is probably that's as finished as it's going to be at the moment. And in fact, probably on the next trip to Antics in Bristol, I'm taking that in so that Andy can display it in the shop. But no, fabulous, absolutely fabulous, and we can but hope that when this is all over, there is these companies are still with us. And I know it seems like a small thing to talk about in the face of such a humanitarian disaster, but like I say, these people are friends of ours. So yeah, absolutely fabulous. And in fact, I've got the model here on the workbench as well. So let me just switch cameras a second, which we can do in a moment, he said. There we go. Switch cameras. Oh, we're getting there in the end, people. and it doesn't want to play ball tonight. Ah, right. It's going to be one of those nights tonight. Let's just try this at the moment. Right. I think I know what I've done there. There we go. I knew it had to be me. Here it is. Now, some people have commented that it's bigger than they imagined. It's about the size I imagine, which is about the size of like one of those Dodge trucks. It's a little bit bigger than the Jeep, but a bit smaller than the White Scout car. I had tremendous fun doing the weathering on the wheels and getting these kind of like muddy splashes and the grease and kind of like the darker patches around the seals there. Also on the Pioneer tools on the back is just giving them that kind of weathered patina. The undersides, it's a token effort. To be honest with you, you're really not going to see the model this side up most times anyway. So, I've not gone massively mad there. And as I say, I also chopped the bonnet open, looked at some reference photographs, and we've got the engine displayed there, which it's a shame to hide it away. So, like I say, we're going to put some more wiring and bits and pieces in there once it's come back from its tour. And what else? I mean, you can see there that weird little baby wheel arrangement, which apparently was used for fording difficult obstacles. And other thing with the lights there, I actually filled the inside of the bezels with a Molotow chrome pen, and then just dropped the clear parts on using clear varnish. The windscreen itself, I absolutely Horlicksed up the clear parts, and in the end used them as a template to cut brand new ones out of acetate. To be honest with you, they're not perfect, and if I could find the plastic bits again, I would sand them smooth and start again. But I don't know where they've gone. They've ended up in the bin somewhere. But yeah, just what a beautiful kit. Honestly, if you fancy something a bit out of the ordinary, and something either as a weathering project or just something you haven't built before, I just absolutely adored this. And yeah, like I say, started in a blaze of enthusiasm and finished under a cloud of sadness. But fantastic stuff from ICM. That absolutely brilliant. Now, on a similar note, bear with me. Where this came up on the Facebook feed today, and I'm just going to switch over to the share the screen. Bum, 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 bum. Here we go. Now this is a new company called KA Models, and this is a 24 scale Mazda K360. Now, as far as I know, this is a brand new kit. Having said that, I'm just going to go on to ScaleMates to make sure I'm not talking through my backside. No, apparently this is a new kit. So it is one of those lovely little weird vehicles, a bit like the Tempo E400. This is 24 scale, and it is. I am at the moment. I'm scouting around to see who is doing the best price on this, because this just is right up my street. It is just a fabulous little vehicle. I've seen these in Japanese movies before, and they've always kind of appealed to me. But having seen a kit of one now, this is gorgeous. And there's the instruction sheet, which is very Hasegawa-ish, it has to be said. Doesn't look massively overly complex, but then I said that about the Lafley, and that ended up being a constructional effort in terms of tying it all together and painting things in situ and everything. But yeah, I really, this puts a smile on my face. And do you know what? I do like the blue one, and I do like the pea green one, but scrolls to the top here. I think the pink one, I think that's gorgeous. And apart from Pink Panther Land Rovers, not very often I actually build something in pink. So I like the look of that. So like I say, I'm casting around at the moment to see if I can find the best price on this, and that is something that is definitely going to be marching its way across the workbench this year at some stage. What an utterly fabulous release, really. So there we go. That's KA Models and their little Mazda 360. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So let's play catch up on some of the comments. Like I say, unfortunately, this is going to be solo tonight, so you know, bear with me. Okay, here we go. Peter's put me right here. Okay, not a new manufacturer. They have done photo etch 1200 ships. It's their first plastic kit, though. Yeah, let me just check that a second. Talk amongst yourselves. KR models, KA models rather, KA models, Mazda. So I don't like doing this on the fly, is there? 1/24th, and we'll check scale, mates. 2020, apparently, this came out. Or it may have been announced in 2020 and it's only just got released. But yeah, utterly brilliant, like that. And Simon Lewis says, I think we need, let's just have a look. He says, I think we need some smiles at the moment. Yes, I think we could all do some smiles, quite frankly. Paul Milligan says, what color did you use for the dust on the Model JM? What I used was MIG oil brusher and, would you believe, dust. I tend to mix that sometimes with a little bit of Starship Filth, or Starship Filth, as this one's called. But by and large, I use the oil brusher. Sometimes I'll brush it on neat, obviously not using the supplied brush, because the supplied brush is about as much use as a chocolate teapot. But I use one of my fine brushes here, and then I let it dry for about half an hour, and then go in there with a stumping brush like this one, which is just from a set from Poundland. It's actually a makeup brush, and then just go in there and start gently blending it into the into the paintwork and whatnot. To be honest with you, on the Laughley, I wish I had done a certain amount of really quite vigorous pre-dusting with the airbrush, but as ever, I just bottled out of it. So we're going to give that another go on the next project, which is similar-ish. But yeah, these oil brushes, they are weird in as much as they're not like ordinary oil paints. And I've spoken to Ivan about this. These tend to be a bit more oily. I know they're oil brushes, they're oil paints. They tend to be a bit more oily in as much as that once they've dried, there's kind of like a waxy kind of film, which is how you blend it in. I don't find that with actual oil paints, even with quality oil paints. So there we go, Paul. An ammo of MIG oil brusher. Fantastic. These are fantastic. When these came out, I thought these were horrible gimmicks. And somebody said, no, give them a go. So I thought, okay. I did love them, use them all the time. So, and Jim Altergott says, AK fluid of dust effects works wherever I use it, where Panzer II. Yes, I've actually got their dust here, but like so many of these oil-based kind of washes and filters and things, they don't last very long. Yeah, it's one of those things with these. One of the things with these. These things here. Let's just go and grab one. There we go. So I got some AK engine grime. This one is still doing quite well, but so many of them, I've had these 10 years, value for money. I've had these for 10 years, and some of them, they just end up separating out into the sediment, the thinner, and you just can't recombine them again. Simon Lewis says, I now have a message to activate a star party. No idea, Simon. Sorry. So it's going to be another, yeah, here we go. Yeah, Steve Moore says, silly Facebook gimmick. Absolutely. Let's not mention parties. That's a contentious issue in this country. So so I'm just having a quick look through some of the comments. So yeah, so brilliant, Laughley. Love that little Mazda. So let's kind of like build something tonight. So I'm going to get on and build something, and we'll also kind of like have a chatter. Like I say, apologies from Drew and Spence that they can't be here tonight. And it's taken a bit of motivation to actually do a show tonight, but I think we've got to do it. I think if we don't do it, it's kind of letting the bad guys win, really, isn't it? So what are we going to build tonight? We are going to build, zooms out, zooms in, zooms out. We are going to be building 24 scale Italeri Jeep. Now, I've got to build this. This is a request from the hobby company. And I do like, this is not something I ordinarily would build in 24 scale. So I do like the challenge of doing something, relatively out of my comfort zone. I've built Jeeps before, and I've built 24 scale vehicles before, but this appeals to me greatly. So we'll just have a quick whiz through the bits and pieces. We have done a pop-up live on this before, but I think it bears doing another one. And I will catch up on your comments in a second. So what have we got? Essentially, this is actually quite simple, which is just as well, because so's the builder. One sprue there with the chassis and the body parts and the bonnet and the wheel hubs, and also the tarp, which we are going to deploy on this model. And then then this one with the engine, some plastic tires, the seats and the body frame, axle, steering wheel, engine fan, Pioneer tools. So probably less parts in this than there is the average 35th scale Jeep. Then there are 5 vinyl tires, which actually, just see if we can zoom in here, actually do have, there we go, you can see that, actually do have some rather nice Goodyear logos on them. So that's rather splendid. Your opinion on vinyl tires is going to be coloured by whether you like them or not. I'll use them. Let's put it that way. And I will prime them beforehand and then use them. I know it sounds counterintuitive that rubber tires can look a bit fake on models, but they're made of rubber. I know. You'd think they'd be perfect, but sometimes they're not. But we will probably use those. They're certainly nicer than the plastic ones, which they have a Firestone logo on them, but I think these vinyl ones are nicer. Then we have a little sprue with the clear parts. We're not going to take those out because we want to protect those for as long as possible. Then we have the instructions, which we sometimes pay attention to. Let's have a look. Just having a look to see if there's any bits that we don't use. Yeah, a couple of bits we don't use. Chassis construction. So you can see this should be fairly rapid, he said, famous last words. And you got the engine, then the radiator box there, then the body shell comes together. This, you could probably build this bit out of sequence actually and put that together first, which is actually what I might do, just to be awkward. And then we've got the wheels and the tires. We've got the bonnet where you can prop up to show the engine, and then the exhaust. Then we've got the additional bits and pieces, jerry cans, seats, and then the option to show the tarp up or tarp down. I think so anyway. We're going to do tarp up for a change. And then we have the color schemes, which are this one with the rather nice, large, attractive yellow star on the front. And I think this is the one I'm going to be doing because it's pretty darn colorful. Then we have this one here, a medical one, which is also quite nice, but that's tarp down. Then we have this one here, which is US Army 101st Airborne, which is that's nice. That's quite nice. I like the blue registration numbers there. Then we have this one, 6th Armored Division, tarp down. Brazilian Expeditionary Force, Military Police, Northern Italy, 1945. That's quite nice, but no tarp. And then that one, US Navy CBeebies, and the CBeebies. It was the television show that never was. But no, we're going to be doing that one because that's awesome sauce, and it's just got the most stickers to go on. So there we go. And then talking of stickers, we have a beautiful decal sheet printed by Zanchetti in Italy, and that's very nice. It's also nice and glossy, and I do find that glossy decals sometimes have better adhesion than matte decals. Matte, the decals with a matte varnish. Possibly something to do with the same way that decals controversially do tend to like sitting on a nice smooth glossy surface, and I find that glossy decals sometimes work better than matte varnish decals. Well, your mileage will vary, but this is very nice, and like I say, we've got a nice big, that's lovely, got the star, we've got all that. Yeah, we are going to be doing that one. Rather curiously, they just checking that. Yes, you do have to paint the bumpers white before you apply the decals, but that's no hardship. And of course, this is a good excuse to do some weathering as well. So there we go. Whoops, a daisy. So we're just going to play catch up on some comments, and then we're going to actually do some modeling. There's a thing. I'll just go through. Andy King says, KA Model Master is listed at £23-ish at HobbyLink Japan. Okay, thanks for that, Andy. I'll have a look at that because I'll see what the postage is. And Sean Smith says e-models have the Mazda for £40, which is not bad, because if it's about 23 quid from Japan and then it factor in about another 15 quid postage, it kind of evens out a bit more. Jim Altagot says, I'm glad you're on the air tonight, JM. I think other people may disagree with you there, Jim, but there we go. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Simon Lewis says, as acrylics go, what are the SMS ones like? Fantastic. They are they're more like an acrylic lacquer, more like a lacquer actually than acrylics. Oh no, hang about. I'll correct myself there, because they have just done a line of water-based acrylics, which I haven't tried yet. I'm waiting to go to Frome to get some of those, but certainly their lacquers, Simon, are absolutely fantastic. And John Patrick Huston says, I've just started an FH Beach Buggy for a 1970s build kit. I think he's going to say it's quite good for a 1970s build kit. Just have a look here. Jim Alcott says, I've heard more con than pro on vinyl tires. Yep. But I've got to build this just straight out of the box. So if they end up melting in 10 years' time, I'm not going to see it anyway. So I'm not going to worry about that. And Mike Williams says, the Jeep looks great. How is the texture effect molded on the canvas tarp? That's a very good question, Mike. We're going to get the... it's a bit of a mixed bag, actually. In as much as there is no texture, not like kind of like the sackcloth and that sackcloth texture you used to get in things like some of the Hella kits, or rather infamously something like the Airfix Sopwith Pup, where you had a really kind of like a Hessian texture. This has a bit of texture, also has what appears to be here, if I can, there we go, there. That looks to be a little bit of mold contamination or something, but we can deal with that. That's nothing. The folds on the back on this one are Well, they're okay. I'm not going to, like I say, I'm not going to worry about it. I've just got to build this straight from the box. So it'll be fun building something with a tarp up for a change, because so many models I build tend to be tarped down. But other than that, no, it's you know, it's an older kit, but it's still beautifully holds up. So yeah, we're going to crack on with that tonight. And we'll also field a couple more questions here before we do that. Simon Lewis says, have you tried Amazon Germany for kits? No, I haven't. No. Is there an advantage to that? So I'm still mindful of the fact that we probably get hit for import stuff in the UK now that we're no longer a member of the EU. So yeah, well, actually, that's a good idea, Simon. I'll have a look at that later on. And also with the going back to the rubber tires thing, I have heard people say that if you do paint them, that it does slow down the possible kind of degradation, because you've put like a barrier to any kind of ultraviolet light or whatnot. So you know, we'll see we'll see what happens with that down the decades. And John says 1070s kit group build in my club. Blimey, I know some of these kits are old, Patrick, John rather, but 1070, that's pushing it a bit. So let's build a model. Let's have some barley cup first of all. Like I say, apologies if you tuned in tonight and thought, why is that confused man from Dudley by himself tonight? I'm by myself tonight. But like I say, hopefully we'll try and rope the others in when they're feeling up to it. Now, first of all, we'll have a horror story. And the horror story here is, now this is, this is my box that tends to accompany projects when I'm working on them. As you can see, it's pretty horrible, isn't it? So much of the stuff in here doesn't need to be in here. So, for example, those rubber gloves, they can go into the bin now because they are beyond useful. That can go in the drawer. That doesn't need to be in there. What else do we have in here? Well, I've got some spare, would you believe, some spare lateral flow test pipettes there, which I've ended up with. So they can be used for dispensing thinner and things. So those can go in the drawer here as well. Oh. Do I need my Mr. Hobby G tool out at the moment? Which is nothing more than a glorified battery-powered toothbrush. No, we don't need that at the moment. So that can go, you know what I'm going to say, that can go in the drawer. I've got like hand gel. Why have I got that in there? That's probably a good reason. Oh, I think I sometimes use that for, I sometimes dab a bit of that onto a bit of cloth and use that for cleaning models before I got my isopropyl alcohol back. So we've got a lateral flow test swab, which, well, that can go there and go in the drawer. My brilliant little torch that I got from Burnham-on-Sea, which is essential when you're forever dropping things on the floor here. Some sanding blocks that are probably past their best. We've got some tweezers, some pliers there, fine. Well, obviously, these bad boys, so we'll keep them out. And pencils. What else? Got some drill bits in there, some super glue, sanding sticks. They always stay in there. A cork from a bottle of whiskey. I don't know what that's doing in there. But other than that, believe it or not, a riveting tool. Other than that, most of these things do get deployed during the course of a project. Although the wick for a lantern, I don't know what that's doing in there. So yeah, that'll do. That's fine. But for the most part, we'll be using tonight, stripping it back to the very, very basics, and scalpel, a pair of Despy cutters, and still the same 400 grit Infiny sander that I was using at the end of last year. these are stood up really, really well. I do have an actual pack of the ones in different grits, but I still haven't got around to breaking that open yet. But no, this one might start deteriorating quite soon now, because it does have, I don't know if you can see, just there is a dink now in the surface there, just there. There we go, just there, where it caught something. So that actually might start falling apart at some stage, but you never know. But these, if you haven't tried these, folks, these Infinity sanders are absolutely beautiful. And they have become my, well, as you can see, it's become my go-to sanding thing for almost everything. And I love the fact that these are nicely thick and spongy. These are absolutely fantastic. I have absolutely no hesitation in recommending these, and you can also get these from Premium Hobbies, who are based in Weston-super-Mare down the road. So there we go. So shall we build a model? I just playing catch up on. I got a Fender airbrush for the same price you got it for after Amazon UK put the price up. Amazon Journey was post in around €4. That's not bad. Dave Fleming says, "Good job, Spencer's not here. He'd have an aneurysm. He really would." I will clean that little box out and make it all nice and tidy for next time. But yeah, that's about as dishevelled as my workbench goes, because I am quite scrupulous about keeping things relatively ordered in here. So let's build a model. Now, what cement am I going to use tonight? Because I've got two here on the go. I've got Ammo of Mig's Red Magma, and I've got their Night Blue. What kind of horror story is going to end up with green plastic with red cement? Who knows? Let's see what it looks like. Only thing I'm slightly concerned about with these Ammo of Mig bottles is they do have that kind of waiting to be knocked over kind of vibe to them. Not as bad as the old Humbrol Britfix, which was in a tall, flat bottle, which you only had to look at it slightly kind of askance and it would just fall over. So we'll probably tape that to something at some stage. But anyway, we'll get on with some modelling. And as promised, we are going to start with the chassis, I think. Yes. Let's have some actual progress, make us all feel good about ourselves. So now my Despy cutters are coming up to 4 years old this year. 2008, I think I got 2018 rather. I think I got them. They're probably past their absolute best, but you know what? They are still absolutely phenomenal. They still do a job. I mean, I've got a little bit of cleanup to do from chopping this off, but that is literally it. That is literally all I have to do. Got a little bit of flash up there, but as that's going to be hidden, I'm not going to worry about that too much. Dave Fleming says, bought the Infinity mixed sets. Don't think I'll need all the grades, but they are great. They are absolutely beautiful. So we've done that, and let's test one of these side panels out. I'm also building at the moment the Italeri Eurofighter, which is sat on the shelf there. I'm doing a little bit of reorganization in the workshop today, and that's sat on the shelf there, and I'm going to get around to doing some more work on that this week. It's just dealing with seams at the moment. I tell you what, you go back to building an aircraft and suddenly I realize why I like building armor, because I really hate dealing with seam lines, sanding and all that palaver, unless it's a Tamir aircraft, obviously. But I don't know. I think I'm just more of a tank guy these days. But I have been having a really kind of like big reorganization in the workshop here because I think in the summer, fingers crossed, I'm going to invest in. I'm actually going to gut the workshop completely, put some new flooring in, and get some new cabinets, and just start from scratch again because I've been in here now for 11 years, 12 years. 13 years, 12 years, 2009, 13 years. I'll do my maths in a minute. I've been in here since 2009 and I've kind of, I've worked out now what the layout is and everything. And there are some things that I do like and there are some things I don't like. I mean, I'm lucky old me. I have my own dedicated workshop. I know, first world problems and everything. But there are some things I do want to change. And least not really, I need a bigger work surface, which already is a huge work surface. But when you're doing it with a MacBook here and you've got cameras and everything, it just needs to be bigger. So yeah, I'm going to do a bit of reorganizing on that one now. Dun dun dun. We have something to deal with before we do any gluing, and you can see what it is, can't you? It's ejection pin marks. Now, I can probably get rid of them for the most part with this blade. And then sand them off. I'm always very careful about this because I have sliced my fingers more times than I would care to remember. Yeah, thanks for this, Italeri. Those are really awkwardly placed. But they are going to be visible, so we're going to need to get rid of them. Usually I have another tool for doing this. And it's this. Whoops, Daisy. It's this. I forget what these blades are called. But you know what? They're awesome. They really are. I mean, these really do make short work of these. If you're watching this and they can tell me what this blade is, please do remind me so I can order some more. And hello, Jen. Apologies to Jen. We were going to meet up in Antics in Bristol this weekend, but I unfortunately had to run errands and whatnot. And anyway, Drew couldn't make it, and I think it'll be far more fun when we can have a proper meet up with everybody up there. But the irony is I do have to go into Antics at some stage to pick some bits and pieces up and drop some models off as well. So, right, let's see if we can get rid of these. Now, what we're going to use is one of these Flory sanders. This is like a medium grit, and I think always careful to make sure that you're not going to suddenly leave like an indentation. Oops, an indentation along that surface there. So we'll just flurry them away. Oh, that is awkward, that one there. I could really do with actually a curved blade. Like this. That's more like it. And this is a classic illustration of why you should have a selection of blades kicking around, because curved blades can do things that straight blades can't. Oh, some nice adzing action there, isn't it? Actually, don't worry about that one, because that one's going to be hidden. So that should now take care of that. And of course, the modeler's best friend, a bit of Scotch-Brite or Merlin or wire wool, whatever you want to call it, plastic wire wool. This is absolutely marvelous stuff for just finishing off a surface like that. So, oh, there you go. It turns out I did that one at the back there, and it wouldn't have been seen. So, that's looking all right. Now, not going to bother about that one there. Upstairs, I'm not going to bother about that one there, because that's not going to be seen. That one there might be when we close the engine bay up. Yeah, that's easy to get rid of. Now, actually, having said that, it's a classic example tonight. It's a classic example tonight of why you should always test fit and double test fit and then triple test fit everything. Don't rely on the manufacturer getting it right, or the kit falling together, because for the simple reason that actually that ejection pin there is actually fouling the fit of the side panel into place. It's just messing it up. So we're just gonna, come on, be gone with you. There we go. Now we'll play catch up with the comments in a second, but I just want to deal with this little devil here. It's a fresh blade, but that's proving to be a little bit recalcitrant. There we go. Now, that's got rid of him. And the other thing about these Infinity sanders is that actually you can get them into relatively quite tight spots. So there we go, all gone. So now we should have a much better fit there. Yeah, there we go. That's lovely. It just slots in there. But I'm also checking to see the instructions here. They do appear to be showing that you fit it under that locating pin rather than on that locating stub rather than on top of it, which I don't know. I think it should sit on top of it, but no, I think it does sit under it. I'm not going to do any glue on that until I've actually determined what the story is there. Comments. Comments. Jim says, I agree, JM. Seam work slows me down on aircraft models. It does, especially when they're kind of slightly older aircraft models, you know, where you're doing a lot of filling or whatever. I just suddenly realized how much I don't like filling and sanding. Just lazy. Rob Monfils says, looks like some sink marks in that footwell. Yeah, a little bit, Rob. A little bit of shrinkage there, but I'm not going to worry about that. That's canning from the thin metal flooring, a bit like the flooring on a Mini. That's, you know, we'll weather our way out of that, quite frankly. And Joe Pestaglici says, just picked up a Fender lookalike airbrush on Amazon US for $35. Haven't tried it yet, but it seems identical to your Fender, JM. Yeah, I still like them. I think they're good quality airbrushes. And John Connolly says, JM, what's your opinion on airbrush models compared to hand painting? I often get crap for being elite because I airbrush. Nothing wrong with airbrushing. No, in fact, John, I would say these days there's nothing elite about airbrushing. Airbrushing is, oops, Daisy. Airbrushing is 10 a penny. Sorry, just have a quick sip there. I'm afraid the days when model magazines and books you used to, you know, used to kind of talk about airbrushing like some kind of dark art. That's long gone. They're tools, as Drew says. It's just a tool. It is, to me, it's a tool like one of these or like one of these. It's, you know, there is no elitism to it these days. And, you know, especially, you know, you can understand it to some extent if airbrushes were still hideously expensive. And, you know, we were talking about the days when it was kind of like Aerograph Super 63s and all that kind of stuff, you know, real precision artist equipment, but they're not these days. They're well, they're cheap, as we have demonstrated with our Fender airbrushes. So frankly, John, if people are giving you a CARP for using an airbrush, change your circle of friends, I think, to be honest with you, without beating around the bush, because they're just tools. That's all they are these days. They are common tools and everything. You know, some people embrace them, some people don't. It's entirely up to them because it's their workshop, their rules. But certainly, no, there's nothing elitist about airbrushes these days at all. And I think I think anybody who does, you know, controversial corner here, I think anybody who does label airbrushing elitist, frankly, you know, makes Luddites look progressive. So anyway, Pasquale Albanese says, what kind of model? What kind of model am I working on at the moment, Pasquale? I am working on the Italeri 24 scale Willys Jeep, which is a release that came out at the end of last year. if that was what you're asking. If it's airbrushes, we'll come to those in a second. And I'm just having a quick look at some of the other comments here. Blah 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 blah. No, people are still talking about my toolbox being quite dishevelled. Yeah, not enough. Now, we'll tell you a funny story actually about airbrushes. And this was, we need that kind of wibbly wobbly effect now, kind of like as we're going back in time. Now, this is going back in time to the late 1980s. So we're talking about 35 years ago now, plus. And I was probably only just out of my teens. I'm just trying to remember this. This is about 1987. So yeah, I was 20 back then, and still at art college. I think I've told the story before about borrowing the School of Arts airbrushes and compressor and get into trouble for that. And they're airbrushes. You shouldn't be putting Airfix paint through them. Yeah, well, but I wrote an article. I submitted an article to Scale Aircraft Modelling, and I remember one of the reasons why I submitted an article to Scale Aircraft Modelling was that I was kind of always a bit trying to think what's the word I'm looking for. Just a bit kind of perplexed as to why sometimes some of the articles in there were a little bit kind of not behind the times, but a little bit behind the times, shall we say. Anyway, so I wrote an article and submitted it to the magazine, and I thought, can't wait to get the letter saying, brilliant, what a fantastic article. A couple of weeks went by. Then I got a letter back from Alan Hall, and I opened it. I was like, here we go, start of my modelling journalism career. No, it was a rejection with my article returned and my photographs, and pretty much he demolished the whole thing. I'll admit the photographs weren't brilliant, but they were no worse than some of the ones that were appearing in SAM at the time. Anyway, the thing that really kind of like annoyed me, and bear in mind I was only 20 at the time, so things could annoy me very quickly, is that he picked up on the fact that he said, I also see you've used an airbrush. And I'm like, yes. And he said, as you may be aware, the vast majority of my readers still use hand painting, so I prefer to pitch articles at their level of ability. Now at this stage, I was like the pigeon in Moonraker. I did the double take, because at the time there were other writers in Scale Aircraft Modelling who were using airbrushes. Jim Howard, for example, president of IPMS UK at the time. Alan had used an airbrush in Scale Aircraft Modelling at the time. Alan had used an airbrush in Airfix magazine in the 1960s, for goodness sake. So this whole thing about, you used an airbrush and my readers prefer hand painting, and I just thought, well, okay. It actually put me off writing for a couple of years. Some people probably wish it had put me off writing for much longer, but it was such a crushing kind of, defeat. I mean, there was some, certainly there was some constructive criticism in there, especially the photographs, because I thought, no, right, okay, I am really going to get much better at the photographs, and I did very, very quickly. To the extent that my photography improved, whereas the photography in 1980s kind of SAM just got progressively worse. It really did. Probably a controversial thing to say, but be honest with you folks, pick up a copy of the magazine and tell me what you see. So but yeah, just that weird thing about so going back to John's comments about airbrushing being elitist, it was just, I just remember finding that really, really odd. I'm thinking perhaps that this was a generational kind of thing. I was from a kind of like a newer generation of modelers for whom airbrushes were part of the scenery. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Was I being a little bit kind of like overly sensitive there? Simon Lewis says, which is the best platform to watch the show? I seem to miss a good few comments. I usually watch on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook seems to be where most of the people are coming in from, because I'm looking at we get little logos come up here. Jim is on YouTube, but pretty much everybody else here is on Facebook. So Stan Codling says, I watch on a 65-inch TV via YouTube, but have it on my phone via Facebook if I want to comment. Yeah, got to admit, the thought of me on a 65-inch television, what a terrifying prospect. But yeah, mostly Facebook. Mostly Facebook. But no, I mean, I know I've just told a story about my experiences with Alan Hall. Let me make it perfectly clear. Alan was an absolute legend. Alan was the grandfather of modeling magazines. He set the template for what a model magazine should be, and especially for his articles in Airfix magazine in the 1960s. I mean, nobody had ever done something like that before. They never done that kind of conversion work. He was an absolute pioneer, and though I was rather perplexed by my experience there, I still have nothing but the utmost respect for what he did and how he started out. But yeah, I just found that a bit odd. Okie dokie, we've got rid of that. What are we coming to? 2030. Goodness me. Well, I tell you what, we might run on a little bit more tonight. Just so that I can actually get some gluing done here, possibly. Although what you are getting tonight is an indication of kind of like dealing with older kits and some of the processes and some of the things you have to do just not to get caught out by, as I say, things like ejection pin marks that might foul up the fit and everything. I'm just trying to see there, we've got some gouges there. I can't tell whether that was my cack-handed knife work or whether that's actually a flaw in the kit. It's probably my cack-handed knife work. But do you know what? That is mostly going to be hidden in the footwell, so I'm really not going to worry about that. So let's see how that's. Yeah, you do trap it. Oops, you do trap it underneath that ledge because it has to, because then the footwell lines up with this kind of raised section here. Obviously, if you tried doing it up there, it's going to interfere. So okay, we've learned something tonight. But I'm still wary about applying glue to all this until I'm absolutely convinced that it's going to fit across there. So what we're going to do is, goodness me, I'm going to break the tape out. Now, this is frog tape, which I get from my local DIY place. I think this is about £3-4 quid. I know some people say it's not the same as Tamiya tape. Well, do you know what? I think it is pretty much the same stuff, really. Just honestly, it's this is good quality stuff. I mean, if I didn't have any Tamiya tape, of which I've got oodles of it, I'd happily use this and wouldn't encounter any problems whatsoever. But it is a way of getting. Let's see, I've done that wrong. It is a way of getting some decent masking tape at a really decent, good bargain price as well. So, so what we're going to do is slap some tape there and then bung that across there like that. So that gives us a little bit of stability, and then we'll put some there and then just stretch it across. Them stayed a bit too much. Yeah, that's fine. So that's enough to just tack that in place at the moment, and then we'll do it again on the other side. And we'll just pop that there to hold that in place like so, and then a bit there. Yeah. Like so, excuse me. That's fine. That's just enough to hold that in place whilst we check the fit of the tailgate. And then if that is wunderbar, then we'll crack on and we'll actually do some glue, and then we'll wrap up for tonight, because I have another show to do at 9 o'clock, which is my Sunday night ghost stories, which is even more chaotic than this. But oh, look, we've got great big nubbins there to get rid of. And what we might do this week is, depending on whether the other chaps want to come on and do a show during the week, we might do a couple more pop-up lives this week. I tell you why, because it's actually an excuse for me to actually sit in the workshop and get on with something rather than kind of moping around. So, and quite frankly, at the moment, with the state of the world, it's very easy to mope around, and I don't think that's healthy. So let's have a look. If we pop that. Yeah, I got that the right way around. There we go. Oops. It will. Yeah, that's actually not bad. That will all slot together. Get my fingers back a bit there. Whoops. That will all slot together quite nicely. Unfortunately, we haven't all got kind of like 12 fingers and 6 thumbs. Not even people from Dudley. So yeah, that's fine. That'll do. What I might do is take this off. I'll check to see how that fits at the back there. I'm mindful of the fact that I do have there are some pins just in there, which are a little bit aggravating, as you can see them in there. But you got to remember, we're going to have the tarp closed on this, so I'm not going to worry about that. What do you do on Sunday? Watch this modelling program, and all you kept doing was saying, "Dad, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that." But seriously, don't worry about it. Right, here we go. I'm going to break out the red magma. This is weird stuff. This. First of all, this great big long brush here. I'm still getting used to that. I'm so used to how much a thing of Tamiya can hold that with this, I either don't get enough on, or I suddenly flood it and I've got too much going on. So it's yeah, it does take a bit of getting used to. But as the saying goes, too little is better than too much. And I'm also going to make sure I don't glue my finger to the to it. Right, first of all, let's get that back on. This does set pretty quickly, but I've also noticed, now that I've got some glue on there, I've ended up with some, I can see some gaps just at the back there. But to be honest with you, oops, and it's come apart there. Now that's, I test fitted that and it was fine, but I have noticed that it just sits a bit, do you know what, I don't like that. Right, I can see what's happened here is actually, should have noticed this before, schoolboy error, is I've just noticed that actually this mating surface here is actually slightly bowed. And so it's actually pushing that tailgate out a bit more. In fact, now I look at it here, I can actually see that the it's the plastic's like a little bit worn. So what we're going to do is we are going to give that. Oh, in fact, as I'm doing that, I'm suddenly getting kind of like slivers of plastic coming off, which just demonstrates that that surface wasn't flat. Like I say, schoolboy error there. It fit, but it was only when I put the glue on did I notice that there were gaps. So let's try that again. Tries that again, and that appears to be much better. In fact, tries it again, and it's still not perfect. So let's have a look. Yeah, I can see it's just there. It's just a little bit out there. So it's also why you want to make sure your liquid cement isn't right in the aim of, right in the firing line of your sanding stick. So this is where the beauty of the Infinity sanding sticks comes into their own. Yep, that's better. That's much, much better. Still a bit of a gap there. I don't know what's going on. I'll just check. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yep, that's it. We've done it. Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations, everybody. We've done it. Like I say, the perils of building older kits is that you do have to. You just see me make an assumption there, and it's come back and bit me in the backside. So. I will say this red magma stuff does grip very, very quickly. It's a bit like Tamiya extra thin, but now that is absolutely rock solid. There's not a gap there at all. So yeah, there we go. That is that was pure assumption and arrogance on my part that I didn't check to make sure that was going to be as perfect as it should have been. So As Wayne Beatty says, cover them with dirt. Yeah, cover them with dirt. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Jim says, I must be in a good with misery. I'm restoring detail on my P2 bomber as you go about your modeling, JM. Well, there we go. Mike Williams says, talking of masking tape, I've got some 3M premium sharp line masking tape from Lidl, £2 a roll. Before exactly like the same as Tamiya. It's 24 millimeters wide and 25 meters long, and it's yellow too. Do you know what, Mike? I have been down to I go down to my Lidl about 2 or 3 times a week because of getting my kind of salads for supper and everything. And yeah, it's I can't find it. I will have another look, but I can't find it. But yeah, some good stuff in Lidl. And Stan says, strange that he made that comment. I have scale model special that I bought in the 70s that was an airbrush special. So airbrushing models are very popular. In fact, my first proper airbrush was an Aerograph Sprite marketed by Revell in the 70s. Yeah, it was just, it's like I say, Stan, you know, and it was very weird that airbrushing was appearing in scale aircraft modeling, but I don't know why he singled my article out to say, you know, that his readers prefer hand brushing. And it was just like, well, I didn't see him taking, you know, Jim Howard to task on it. But, that was a long time ago. Clearly, it doesn't rile me anymore. But it was just amusing. It was just amusing. And the thing is it kind of like knocked me back for a while. And then I thought, no, I'm going to prove a point here. And that's when you suddenly, around that same time, you did start having a new generation of kind of writers coming through. And, you know, and I don't place myself in the same pedigree as them, but you did have people like Spencer Pollard, people like Marcus Nichols. They're all rough, you know, we're all kind of roughly the same age and of the same kind of generation. And we were coming through and we were just like, no, these are, we use these things. There's no mystery to them. There's no, you know, there's no kind of mystique to them. And, you know, I mean, you pick up a model magazine these days and it's, you know, it's par for the course. But I don't know. It certainly spurred me on because I thought to myself, well, you know, I wanted to write the kind of model articles that I wanted to read. So the only way we're going to do that is to actually, you know, sit down and write them. So, and I look back on some of my early stuff, especially the stuff I did for Ron Firth, and oh goodness me, I mean the photography was still a bit new, you know, my photography that is, but yeah, long time ago. Right, we're just gonna close these side panels up, and then we'll call that a day for tonight. Oops, Daisy. See, I'm not. If that was Tamiya, that would have grabbed. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make sure that I do all my cementing from the underside rather than on any surfaces that might actually be more visible on the model. So in case I do suddenly make a right old faux pas, it's not going to be that noticeable. And like I say, I'm still getting to grips. There we go, perfect example there. I'm still getting to grips with this cement. I'm being more cautious with it by virtue of the fact that you can see exactly where it goes, which then makes me think, I'm suddenly going to be exposed to how absolutely cack-handed I am when it comes to applying, you know, liquid cement. So I'm trying to be a little bit more precise. And like I say, we're going to run it on the insides and everything. Oops, I see a bit too much there, but you can see how it kind of like bleeds through to the other side. But it does grab quite quickly. I quite like that. And see, we got some pin marks on the underside here. Do you know what? I'm not gonna bother with them. It's not a competition model. It's purely a display model, and you know, we can always hide it with mud, but we're not going to worry about it. I mean, yeah, okay, I could probably take that one out with a sanding stick, but yeah. Lee Suter says that orange knife, never knew they were still available. Last one I saw was back in the 80s. They are still available, Lee. They are absolutely still available. I've got the metal one, which is in my mobile toolkit at the moment. But no, this is you can still buy these. You can go into craft shops. You can still buy these. I do have another one here. Slightly older one, could do with a bit of a clean. But the only problem with the plastic ones is that they do start to fracture here where you tighten them up for the blade. But here, look at this, an antique here, and we can zoom in there. Look at that. This is my old Airfix knife that came with their modeller's toolkit, which was like a blister pack thing, which consisted of this, a pair of tweezers, an emery board, a couple of blades, I think that was about it, and a tube of glue. Got that for Christmas 1979. Thank you, Mum, who's watching tonight. And yeah, I've still got this. Well, not only do I still have this old plastic knife, which again is probably, you can see where it's been repaired down the years, but I've still got that here. But also kicking around somewhere in here, I still have my Humbrol handles. I don't think they're actually, I'm just having a quick look to see if they're actually in. They're not in here. I think they're in one of the other toolboxes, but I've still got my Humbrol craft blade handles, a bit like one of these metal ones. Might break that one out actually. So yeah, that's 40 years old, that. But no, I've got the Swan Morton. I've got the metal handled one now. Drew recommended it, and yeah, they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. So okay, I'm just doing a quick, before we'll close up here for tonight, but again, I'm just having a quick look there, and there is a little bit of something not quite right there that's leaving a bit of a gap there. So I'm just going to give that a few swipes of the sanding stick there. And then we'll see how that goes. Bit better, still not perfect, but it's a tailgate, so you're going to get a little bit of a gap there. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We can live with that. So I'm just going to yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to hold it there to align it with the side, and then we'll just drop a little bit of This is most unnerving, because speaking as somebody who has managed to slice the top of their finger off 30 odd years ago, believe it or not, it was this devil that did it. I'm a little bit perturbed to be looking at a model at the moment where there's copious amounts of kind of like red staining on it, which kind of, you know, having had my Type O all over my models, it's I keep checking my fingers to make sure I haven't sliced myself. So, yeah. But we're going to stick with this. We're going to stick with the red magma for this project, I think. We may as well give it a thorough road testing. And the other thing I might probably will use on this model very lightly is my Ammo of MIG acrylic mud for dioramas, but I'm going to use this on this model just to see what that's like. If it's any good, I might get some more. And a big shout to Mr. Andrew Hills of Antics in Bristol, who stocks the Ammo of MIG stuff, which is also where I got the Lafley from, and it's also where I got my Mini Art Tempo from. So thank you, Mr. Hills. I will be back in your shop at some stage. This is the beauty, actually, of where we are here in Somerset, is we've got so many different retailers who all stock different things uniquely. Like, for example, Frome in Frome Model Centre, they do the SMS paint, which you can't get anywhere else. So, you know, we like to spread the wealth around. So I think that's about it. I think we actually will have a bit more just in there, just in that wheel arch there. That'll do. There we go. Goodness me, I wish I'd had this kind of glue when I was a kid, because I'd be trying to stick things together with tube. Well, literally, I'd be trying to stick things together with tube glue. And I think those of us from an older generation remember the advice about binding fuselage halves together with rubber bands or sticky tape or clothes pegs. Whereas these days, you just literally, you can do that. That's it. That is now absolutely solidly welded together, because it is literally welded together. It's a chemical weld. So do love liquid cement. Right, that is on nice and tight, like so. So that's where we'll leave it tonight. We're going to carry on with this week, and like I say, we might do some pop-up lives at the same time. So I'm just going to do a quick catch up on the comments here. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, Simon Lewis says they probably used to say that about cordless tools. You can't use it. Well, here's the thing: is I was always told, and I was a teenager at the time, I was always told by my local model club that you can't use spray cans on models, and I'm like, why? Well, because they'll flood the model with paint and they'll obliterate all the detail and everything. You can't use spray cans on models. So I can remember right about late 1980s, I was in my local Halfords getting some cycling stuff and whatever, and they used to stock, it was the precursor to the Halford spray cane. It was, I think it was a company called High Coat or something. And I thought, well, I'm just going to try it. So I bought a can of this High Coat grey primer, kind of went home, was building something or whatever. So sprayed some of this primer on there trepidatiously, and then when it dried, it was like, no, this is fine. Of course you can use spray cans on models and things. So I'd go back to the club and I'd still say, no, well, I use this. No, you can't use spray cans on models. Well, I just have. Yeah, but you can't. Well, why can't I? Well, because they'll cover it. They'll cover all the detail up. Yeah, but it hasn't. Well, they'll melt the model, but they haven't. You know, and I think High Coat were the first of the acrylic lacquers. They weren't cellulose. They were like acrylic lacquers. So I was using kind of like, you know, spray cans from Halfords, you know, kind of like late 80s onwards. And I was always being told, no, you can't use spray cans on models. The irony is now that, you know, you see people using Halford's grey primer, you know, with wild abandon. I'm almost kind of like gone full circle, because people go, oh, Halford's grey primer, it's as good as Tamiya fine surface primer. And I'm thinking, well, I disagree with that actually, because I use both of them, and I find the Halford stuff is very good, but the Tamiya stuff just has that little bit of extra kind of, it pulls around detail better. The finish is smoother. It's just more, there's more finesse to it than a can of Halfords. But like I say, people say no, it's as the Tamiya, it's as good as Tamiya. And I'm like, oh, I don't think so, but there we go. Controversy. James Tayton says, thanks for the show. By the way, where does one find the ghost stories thing? Just look up Sunday Night Ghost Stories. Honestly, it's nonsense. It's pure nonsense, but it keeps me out of trouble. Mike says, I use Halfords plastic primer today, white primer for a large 70-second scale, handy page friction, anti-flash, took seconds and is bulletproof. Yeah, I think that's the thing, Mike, is that certainly on larger models, stuff like the Halfords plastic primer, or indeed the Humbrol primers are, they're fine. They're absolutely brilliant. But I find that on, even with like little tiny 70-second scale vehicles, is you can actually be quite adventurous with Tamiya fine grey primer, but it just pulls together ultimately. Whereas you could do that with another primer, and you could actually kind of like start losing a little bit of definition if you are particularly kind of heavy-handed. Problem we got there is again, I'm so used to the properties of spraying this, but the chances are I could pick up a spray can by somebody else, and I would automatically be going like that, and that's it. I would, user error. So it's funny how these things kind of like work out ultimately. Halford's grey primer, goodness me. Might actually get some at some stage and kind of like go revisit the past. But then again, I've got crates of the Tamiya fine grey primer here, so. Anyway, that'll do for tonight. Like I say, this has been a slightly different show, but we're trying to kind of keep our heads up and trying to get on with some modelling and whatnot. So there we go. We've managed to in the space of an hour and a half, we've managed to glue 4 pieces together. So on that note, hopefully we'll be back on Wednesday in one form or another. So we will carry on broadcasting and try and just try and keep going at the moment. So on that note, as always, it remains for me to say stay safe, stay out of trouble. If you can support one of the appeals out there, if you can support one of the appeals out there, then that would be splendid. Either Save the Children Running One, or there's also the, just calling it up here a second, there's also the Disasters Emergency Committee in the UK. They are a coordination of lots of charities. So yeah, if you can support either one of those, that would be absolutely splendid. So on that note, obviously it remains for me to say stay safe, and especially to all our friends in Ukraine, please stay safe, and we will see you hopefully in the middle of the week. So from us, from the Sunday service, bye for now.